So Matt, just tell me when to start. Like any time or?
Yeah, I think you're good.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Wow, what a great day it was yesterday. I was just walking through the halls and seeing everybody talking, and the room seemed like filled with inspiration and energy, and it's just such an inspiration to me every year coming here and just seeing all that activity, all the sharing of ideas, and really great teachers just working to become even greater. So that is a fantastic experience, and thank you for that. So how many people here felt like they learned something new yesterday? Great. And how many of you met someone you plan to follow up with afterwards? That's also what it's all about. And excited about today. Is there? I mean, obviously you're here because you're here bright and early on a summer day. So I want to thank the fantastic developers at First Playable, my colleagues who I work with, for all the work they put into organizing, conceiving of, innovating, and just making everything run so smoothly. All behind the scenes, there's chaos and there's improvisation, but yes. So Matt and Ian are here out in the hallway. Of course, everybody's there making the event run fantastically. So in our real jobs, we make video games. So this is our what I call our team building exercise every year to organize and run this conference. We all get to work with each other in a little bit different way, and without their energy and dedication, it couldn't happen. Today, we have a remote location in Montreal, who apparently I'm talking to through this mic, and maybe Matt can see them. Yeah. Oh, Matt can see them. They exist. That's awesome. So we have a remote location in Montreal being hosted and organized by Affordance Studios and Avery Rube, who leads that studio. And thank you very much to making that happen. We are trying to facilitate people who want to run similar types of events in their local community, serving their local educators. So this is part of our process of trying to figure out how to make that happen, how to empower other software professionals, video game developers to create this type of professional development event for educators, because we spend a lot of time creating technology and creating new technology and new things you have to learn, and it seems like we should spend some of our time giving you some time to catch up and figure out what it is we just are putting out there in the market. So, so this will be a fun day today with Montreal as well. So, and then also because of our current this year's technology, we've been able to put some of yesterday's program on the web, on YouTube. So that's great because it's always our aspiration, but the logistics of actually getting that done often is a bit challenging. So thank you, Matt, for figuring that one out. And now it's my honor to introduce Steve Isaacs for his keynote on the topic of passion-driven learning. And I can relate to that because I was a little obsessive as a kid, and maybe I am now. And when I was around 5 years old, I became obsessed with electricity, and that kind of drove my entire rest of my school experience. And I am an electrical engineer, as it turns out. And I do say now at least video games use electricity. So I'm still in that focus that, and I drive an electric car, so that passion certainly drives a lot of things I do, even if it may be extremely inconvenient, like driving an electric car in upstate New York. So so I think kind of tapping into that element in every kid is what teachers are always seeking to do, and that's when the light turns on, and then probably that's when it makes that job really seem worthwhile, when you can make that connection and maybe motivate a lifetime of inspiration. So Steve was also that kid. He was obsessed with technology, and I have a son who's probably very similar in that respect. They used to call him Flash because he used to never be far from his flash drive when he was an elementary school kid. So very useful to his teachers when he could run around and sneakernet files for them. He's been dedicated to learning and sharing ways to use video game technology to inspire the next generation's learning. He is never hesitant to reach out and try to help share what he knows, sharing his experiences, listening to others, and especially bringing people together. And I think some of the discussions here, you get the sense of how there's this community of mutual support and learning from each other, and Steve is really at the center of that, and much appreciated from that standpoint. I haven't yet heard him say no to anything, but I've heard him be asked. So there are people who tell me to saying no is a good idea, but I also tend to not say no. So thank you for helping enabling me and my tendency to overcommit. So Steve has been teaching video game design and development for 15 years, starting with an innovative program at Liberty Corner Computing, interactive training and gaming center that he and his wife owned and operated for 10 years. And thank you for being with us here as well. Steve has been teaching computer courses at William Annan Middle School in Bernards Township, New Jersey for the past 17 years, where he developed a video game design and development curriculum. His 7th grade class was featured in a case study video that the Joan Gans Cooney Center had done, and also as a feature in an episode of Teen Kids News. This year, he was named Teacher of the Month by a little organization called Code.org. I don't know if anybody has heard of that, but that's a fantastic organization. And then Teacher of the Year at the middle school where he teaches. In addition to teaching, he is also active throughout the space. He's one of the founding members of the Games for Ed initiative, also the co-founder and co-moderator of EdTech Bridge, where he's really been leading the effort to get that information out, connect people, share stakeholders, and empower people to try the things they want to try. So with that brief bio of welcoming Steve, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. That was nice.
Thank you.
Well, good morning. So it's funny, my topic was, my first slide originally said passion-driven learning, and then, it occurred to me the teaching aspect and being passion-driven as a teacher is, of course, a big part of my story and what I'm sharing. So I made sure to include that as well. And I want to, first off, it's an extreme honor to be speaking here and to be asked by First Playable to keynote this. This conference has a lot of great, meaning to me and to a lot of us here. I believe my first time attending presenting was about 4 years ago, and I came I was starting to get connected with other game-based learning educators and things, but I distinctly remember sitting down at breakfast, not knowing anybody, and sitting at a table with Peggy Sheehy, Marian Malmstrom, Lucas Gillespie, Chris Haskell, and not really knowing who they were, and immediately being consumed as a member of their tribe, as you often hear us speak. So a lot of, so I have a lot to say about the connections I've made at this conference and what it's meant to me. And I hope that everybody's having a great experience learning and interacting with everybody. The game-based learning community happens to be very welcoming and very generous in supporting people who are interested in game-based learning. So by all means, tap into that community and become part of that. If you are many of you on Twitter, or okay, if not, please get on Twitter. I plead. It's transformed my career, quite honestly, over the last maybe 4 or 5 years, in terms of making real connections with people that have led to really great opportunities and things, and sharing of resources and whatnot. So if you're not on Twitter yet, please get on. If you are on, I've been using the hashtag PassionEDU over the last week or so, as I've done a little bit of crowdsourcing for this presentation, and trying to get more people to join that conversation. So if you're tweeting today, please use the hashtag GIE15 for the conference and PassionEDU. And there, I'll tell you a little bit about me. So I used to have blonde hair somehow, and we used to joke. And one time we went to the bank, and the bank teller in the drive-thru asked me where I got my blonde hair. I didn't really understand the context, and I said, "From the milkman." And then my hair started. I started to look more like my father. But as you can see by the glasses and my '80s motif, definitely a geek through and through. And I wear that badge proudly. And as a kid, my Apple II Plus and my Atari 2600 were like my lifeblood. I remember getting a 300 baud modem in the 80s or something, and thinking it was the most amazing thing to be able to have my computer with that great noise. I loved, the noise, connect to another computer, you know, many, many miles away, often in California, running up our phone bill and such. And that was like way before. I couldn't even understand the internet when it came to be, because the concept of being able to connect to computers all over by dialing a local number made no sense whatsoever at that point. As you can see, I've never quite grown up and don't plan to. I did pull that outfit out of my closet yesterday as I was packing, and considered wearing it for my keynote. My wife didn't think that was such a good idea. So career-wise, so during college, I was working with adults with disabilities in a group home setting, and did some really wonderful things with the people that I worked with, and that was like just an amazing experience. Quite honestly, the only reason I got into teaching was, as I was working with adults with disabilities, somebody suggested, oh, why don't you get your teaching certificate, you know, just so you kind of have something to do, because with a psychology degree, there's not really much you could do. So I said, all right. So I got into the special ed program and decided to get certified as a special educator. So I started my career in '92 at Mount Hebron Middle School in Montclair, New Jersey. And there I taught a self-contained special education class. I stayed in Montclair for about 6 years. While I was there, fortunately for me, Mount Hebron is a science and technology magnet school. And interestingly, the technology, I would say, was being often underutilized. And I had this self-contained class that was really not intended to be part of the science and technology magnet aspect of the school, but they needed a room for this class. So I took full advantage of starting to use technology with my students, and found some, you know, wonderful ways for my kids to embrace and actually, you know, kind of learn at their own pace, that sort of thing, you know, with technology. And this is quite some time ago. At that time, I met our technology director at the school, Paul Tarentiles, and he and I talked a lot about opening. Well, he had run these computer camps and things, so we talked about opening a facility. And my wife and I and his wife and he opened Liberty Corner Computing, which was originally intended to be a training center, essentially. We were going to do adult courses. We were going to do summer camps, which was already, it's funny, they ran summer camps, but it was like, you know, limited scope, because they did it in schools at the time, and after school programs. And one of the things my wife and I especially wanted to do was we were sort of enamored by the idea of an internet cafe. So we were in this tiny town, Liberty Corner, New Jersey. And so we decided, yeah, we'll be open as an internet cafe on Friday and Saturday nights. And it was very romantic. Kathy and I would sit and drink coffee and surf the internet. And occasionally 1 or 2 people would come in, and they brought great stories too, because they were the people, for whatever reason, they were an interesting bunch. And so anyway, so then for our after school classes, when kids missed a class, we decided, hey, why don't we allow them to come in the evening to what we called Java and Bytes Internet Cafe, and, you know, kind of make up their time. So kids started doing that. And then all of a sudden, one kid one day showed us that you could actually, it's really amazing, you could play a game like Warcraft 2 on a network. Anybody ever see this? You could play, like, I could be playing here, you could be playing there, and we're actually playing against each other. This was like the biggest aha moment of my life. And this was brought to us by a kid. You know, I knew we had this network thing. I didn't really understand the power of it. And quickly, we became a gaming center on Friday and Saturday nights, and had a huge, wonderful group of kids coming, you know, every Friday and Saturday. In fact, really heartwarming. Just the other day, I was on Facebook, and one of the kids, and I didn't even know how I found this, because I wasn't connected with him at the time, but he wrote a post about how he had just realized how many of his Facebook friends had fond memories of Liberty Corner Computing as a kid. And then this thread went on, and it was just beautiful, you know, to see that. And this is 15 years later. These kids are 30 years old now and stuff. So that's pretty awesome. And then while I was there, I took a job pursued a job and took it at William Annan Middle School, which is where I still am today. So that's a little bit about my path. I'll tell you, well, I could tell you now, why not? So at William Annan, I started teaching fairly traditional computer courses. Like a lot of you have heard probably over the last 2 days too, when you think about how to get games and things into the classroom, I was really excited about some of the things we were able to do at Liberty Corner Computing and wanted to kind of create that in school. And so I started an after-school club that was a basically game design course, pretty much. And kids came after school to create games, and that was pretty cool. So we started to see that come in. Then I was part of the Gifted and Talented program at one point, and I was able to sneak in a unit on game design because for gifted kids, this sounded like a really great enrichment opportunity. And then eventually I, talked to my supervisor and our principal and pitched the idea and had them fortunately embrace it of creating an 8th grade elective in game design and development. Okay, so that's what I've been doing now, and I'll talk about more of that as the presentation goes on. Okay, and this is a very, very important part of my life, of course. 21 years ago, my lovely wife and I got married, and we've stayed married for all 21 years in a row. And now we have 2 beautiful children, and they're, of course, a very central part of our life. Okay, but now what I'm here to talk about primarily is, as I see it, oftentimes, this is what we see when it comes to passion-driven, learning. So we have, in informal learning spaces, kind of like Toby was talking about too. I'm sure her fascination with electricity and things like that kind of happened outside of school, right? Fortunately, she might have had some teachers that were able to tap into that and allow her to pursue that, because thank goodness it continued for her career path. But oftentimes, school is very separate from this passion and informal learning space thing. And I think that needs to change. This, I think, Marianne even referred to this yesterday. This is just a graph of how much time we spend in informal learning spaces and how much in formal learning spaces. And yet, but yet if you could also look at it like that formal part is where things change from that informal part dramatically. Like it's like we have to come out of our informal learning world and enter school. So, I kind of think, and there are so many people that are doing this right. I think as an institution, education is kind of missing the mark, and I think we can, change that. So, when you think about it, and there's so many more. I was looking at how many people quit school. Some of them, many of these were before college. Some were in college. But I mean, it really says a lot about these people who are obviously passionate about what they have pursued, yet school wasn't the place they were gonna be able to do that. And you hear so many stories of people where they were just like banging their head against the wall or told everything they couldn't do in school, and then look at them now. And Albert Einstein, I love this quote. I have no special talents. I'm only passionately curious. And so Albert Einstein despised school. He felt like his teachers weren't, teaching, what he wanted to learn and whatnot. And even at age 15, he had, he was suggested by a teacher that he leave school, and he did, and he never returned. Kind of a sad statement. So like I said, as I was working on this presentation, I decided to reach out to all my friends on the internet. And I was just kind of thinking, like, what are some things that make you kind of cringe about our current affairs in school? You're welcome to share them. You could tweet about now. Anything in particular come up for people? What kind of drives you to school? Test scores. What was the other one? Bells. Me too. Rigid seating arrangements. Starting, especially for middle and high school, right? Spirit rallies. What's that? Unnecessary classes, right? So there's plenty, right? These are just some of the responses I get. A lot of them kind of mirror what you all said. The one at the bottom also triggered something else for me. It says, "Oh, we tried that once and failed, so we can't try it again." The that's, I mean, a lot of people love that. Well, we've been doing it this way, you know, why change it? Or oh, we tried that once, you know, 10 years ago, and that's good enough. It also, you know, another big pet peeve of mine is that the typical model is that we test kids, right? They get a C or a D, and we move on. So in other words, we're saying that the learning wasn't that important. You know, you learned this much, but now we can go on. You know, and you got this grade, and that's like maybe a negative thing or whatever. So that irks me. I've sort of developed iterative grading where kids can continue to resubmit things, and we'll go back and forth with feedback until we're comfortable that they got to that point where, you know, mastery is, or they at least, you know, fulfilled what these requirements might be. Okay, this is another thing. So have anybody visit any startups? I can't wait to see First Playable. I've been hearing all sorts of things lately about their space. But this, I mean, I would love to spend my days in this space, right? And yet many of us spend our days, you know, here. And I really don't understand, you know, I hear a lot, there's a push for creating learning spaces or understanding what a valuable learning space might be. But rarely, you know, I've started to see some math classes at school that have tables that are circles, you know, instead of rows, and that's a start. I think there's so much more we could do with creating, you know, a great environment in school. And this, we kind of, my wife and I joke, or she has this thing about brochures. She's a tech teacher, and oftentimes, like, there have been certain units at her school where they always do a brochure. Now, the brochures often have, you know, almost like a template in Publisher. You know, you put a picture here, you put some text here, and poof, at the end, we all have a brochure. You know, I mean, in my opinion, why aren't we presenting something and giving kids, you know, a multitude of options for what they want to how they want to present their information? You know, I mean, maybe as an educator, it's easy to grade all these brochures because there's a simple rubric that says, you know, they put this picture a little outside the box, so they lose a point. They, you know, spelled something wrong here, so they lose a point. Maybe that's the benefit. But I think for me, it would be more interesting to grade a variety of different projects. And this, I kind of want to apologize. I've always, years ago, I would see kids come in from Montessori, you know, preschools or elementary schools. And I started to say to myself, I was like, wait, you know what? There's something wrong, because all of these kids that come from Montessori, they can't sit still in class and follow directions. You know, and now I'm thinking, my God, like, why are we asking them always to sit still and follow directions and things, you know? So I think they have the right idea, and that maybe more of that Montessori philosophy should enter, you know, all of our school programs. You know, my classroom now, the kids are not, you know, like following, they're doing individual things, and you know, and they're engaged in what they've chosen to do, and it's very different from the typical. And then, you know, this is one of my other things, I think. So we're still asking kids to memorize, you know, content, right? I want kids to learn how to use, you know, that content. I think, you know, if I can, you know, there's that feeling, if I can Google the answer for something, why do I need to memorize it, right? Maybe on tests, kids should be allowed to use the resources and use, you know, and search for the answers. If I can find the answer that you want on this test, why is that, you know, why can't I do that, you know, and is that still considered cheating, you know? So this is, you know, I draw a lot from my kids. Maybe, I don't know, I have to believe that being a parent changed a lot of my views. I don't know if I would have come to all of it on my own. I think a lot of it I would have, but this is, the other day I went back to my computer that my daughter Layla had been on, and there were a bunch of tabs open, and this is what they looked like. And these are all YouTube videos, and this is her, you know, working on something that she's learning online, right? Now, I even see things that look almost like math and stuff in there. I don't know, but this is really how she learns. So at home, she finds what she needs because she wants to. She's gone into producing her own videos because she sees what she likes in other people's work and she kind of models that, right? And all these wonderful things that then she goes to school and it doesn't look or feel like that, you know? And then our other daughter, and I don't know if this is more my opportunity to kind of brag a little or because I want to make a point. So pretty cool, huh? So so Grace, you know, is a very passionate cheerleader, right? I think I forget, and I should know it. I'm just drawing a blank on the guy, the 10,000 hours guy. So if you practice something for 10,000 hours, you become an expert. Well, who is it? Thank you, Gladwell. So she's practiced some of these skills for about 10,000 hours, and it has proved to work. Again, school doesn't really, you know, she tries, but she's not as excited or inspired. Little kind of story about Grace too, and this is any kid, I think. So she got an interim report card thingy from her school recently that she goes to Votech half day for culinary arts, which I think is great because she's pursuing something she's interested in. But and she was doing, you know, extremely well. And then all of a sudden, one marking period or whatever, she got an interim report that was not so great, and it said, you know, missing homework, you know, impacted your grade or something like that. So as the good father, you know, and mother, we said, you know, you're still going to do that homework. And anybody want to know what her answer was initially? Well, why or no or doesn't matter? Why doesn't it matter? Right, it's not going to be right. It's not going to be graded. It's not going to count. Which, as an educator who truly believes that if we're going to assign things, they should matter. You know, I wanted to at least have her feel. So what I said was, you're still going to do it. And if it was assigned originally, it's because there's value in it, and you were supposed to learn that. So now you're going to do that and learn that. You know, she maintained the sassy, like it doesn't count thing, but I feel like at least I was able to hold the idea that, you know what, if this is assigned, you know, either I need to see the instructor and see, you know, why it's not important if it's not important, or if it is, you know, I want her to learn what she was supposed to learn. What's that? That's a good question too, right? So I mean, she was doing well in the class, but I don't know, but you know, there, in my opinion, there was a gap. Like, I don't know if it was necessarily assessed, but she, you know, I think either way, I think she needed to go in there and take and do that. So this is my vision. And again, I do want to say, I think there are many people that embrace this and where this is able to happen, but I'd like to see it more, and I think it can be seen more. So now, like I said, I will talk a little bit about my course. So here's, you know, part of my mission. I want a choice-based learning environment for my students. It's important for me to empower them to take ownership of the learning and to pursue and find and pursue their passion. So in my class, the way that might look is that it's kind of a studio-like environment. The kids have a lot of different opportunities and choices for projects. As far as the passion part goes, or finding theirs, they're a lot of team projects. So if you're creating a game, there's a game design team. Anybody who here is a developer would understand that fully. So there are graphic artists, there are audio engineers, there are people who work on the narrative and the design, and there are more of the programming coder type. So those give kids that opportunity, but I also go further than that, and some of the choice-based assignments let them pursue some of their own interests and bring them into, you know, their projects. And also, as I had said about the teacher part, I have to, you know, set that stage. If I believe strongly that my kids see my passion for learning. I am excited. You know, it's not, I don't pretend to be excited. I'm very excited about what I teach and about learning new things and about learning in general and all that. Allowing the kids to go my comfort zone puts me in a position where I can learn with them, and that's perfectly fine as well. They're empowered. You know, I can guide. I don't have to be the expert. And I do believe and hope that this can and is contagious. And I believe that, you know, the best we can do is model, you know, what we expect. So as far as learning space goes, I don't have it quite, it's pretty great. This year I got 3 large TVs. I got the PTO to purchase for the classroom. I have a lot of resources and things that the kids can use. The only thing I don't have yet that I'm working on is couches, which I do strongly believe are going to be the next thing to make it a truly comfortable learning space. I'd love a ping pong table, but I don't know where I'd fit that yet. And as far as choice goes, so it's funny. I started out where I had like these main units, and then I had, so the kids created a game in Game Maker. They created a game, a level in Portal 2 in the level design maker, and they created a game in Minecraft. They're still all options. But what I used to want to do was during class, we're staying kind of focused on, we're right now in the Game Maker unit, we're in this unit, we're in this unit. But outside of class, you can have choice and do other things for like extra points and things. Then what I started to notice is that kids would often come into class, and before I would, like, let's say, bring them together, they would already immediately go into one of the activities they were working on that might not have been the unit we were currently on. And it made me really realize how much more I had to open that up. If a kid's gonna walk in and log into code.org and start working on coding activities because they came right in and wanted to do that, why do I need to break that flow, you know, and such? So we do one unit kind of together at the beginning because it sets the stage for good design elements in game design. I am getting that part through, but then after that, it opens wide open. And I have there the icon for Instructables and Snap Guide. Anybody use either Instructables or Snap Guide with their kids? Yeah, or on your own? Okay. They're great tools for creating step-by-step tutorials, which is a really neat activity for kids to have to explain how to do something step by step and be thorough enough that somebody on the other end can do that. So that's one of the places where you can do something related to class. They can take something I taught, you know, in Game Maker and make a snap guide to show that, or they can do anything they want. So I've had kids take their passion about changing the oil in their motorcycle and creating a snap guide for that to all sorts of other things. But then they're creating content for an authentic audience. They're following, you know, it's funny, in computer science, sequential learning is a valuable skill and such. So they're still, you know, on the path, but yet they're also bringing their interest in. And the upper right there is Little Big Planet 3. One of the things, I'll talk in a few minutes about a couple of Donors Choose grants I got, but the kids can create games in Little Big Planet 3 as one of the options. I'm going to show you a little video of a project some kids did recently.
That I've been working on, me and Joel have been working on for the past couple of days. And it's a game where the objective is to click the button to start the game. And what you have to do is get bows and arrows, and mine carts will come on the rails over here. And the objective is to hit as many mine carts down as possible to earn points as the redstone lamps up top.
So it's a mini game essentially.
Yeah.
And you guys created this whole thing just over the last few days?
Yeah.
Okay. And tell us about the development process for this game in particular.
Well,
it was mainly created using like redstone.
Okay. So the redstone I can clearly see is what's making the mine carts do their thing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Here's the redstone behind it.
And that's all for what? For the mine carts part? Or I guess also for the scoring?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
this is
idea how to do
like
this.
where the mine carts are dispensed, and in order to keep it like stable so that it doesn't overflow, I have a piston like pushing it down, like opening up and pushing it down, and a redstone clock going around, so it like dispenses opposite to each other. And once you win the game,
How do you know if you won?
you have to hit as many mine carts down to power all the redstone lamps that are going on, right?
Okay.
From what I had 4. And
Well, do you have a time limit for that?
yeah, there's a certain amount of mine carts in the chest.
Okay, I see.
So
wait, but when the minecart goes through, if you miss it, does it go somewhere that it doesn't come back?
It dispenses itself into the lava. It comes like straight up here into the
Nice.
lava. And then
And how many do you have to get to win?
yeah, approximately 9.
Okay, and what happens if you don't win?
If you don't win, let's just get rid of the mine carts right here. Let's show you. So we got rid of the one over here, and just so it does, so we have like both sides, so it doesn't like make you do too much. If you get rid of both these, if you're standing over there, it'll come up.
Oh, awesome. Okay, and if you win, it'll say you win?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And the command blocks, once you like fill in the chest down here with like all the mine carts over here, this will be powered, like the redstone will be powered to power all the redstone lamps. Let's just put a redstone torch down to like mimic the comparators going off. So if we put a redstone torch down over here, it'll.
I think you got the idea.
Yep.
And then here's one other one I'll show you, just part of as well, just to hear the kids explaining in their terms.
So our game is a Minecraft hardcore map, and well, like when we first started it, we were kind of just doing it to like just pass the time, but then we realized we could really make a lot with this game. So our game, it basically, you have to escape. Your character is set as being trapped in this parkour area, and you have to try to escape. And it's kind of like an interdimensional parkour, because it has, you start in the overworld and then you go to the end. And I kind of really like that because I've never really seen that before in Minecraft. And with Minecraft, it's so open. You can do like so much with it.
So that to go back to that one for a second, what was really cool about that is the kid, I thought he sounded great and eloquent and explained that project. I sent home a link to that project. I have a YouTube channel for class, his parents, and I got this letter back that said, wow, we never hear him talk about, school and he was expressing himself so well there. And it was like, to me, this kid was just a great kid that's just doing what he does every day, but it was kind of neat to get that perspective. I get the question, why do you give so much homework? And that's an interesting one, because every once in a while it comes in the form of an email that doesn't have a wonderful tone from a parent. And I have to write back and I say, it's interesting. I said, I don't give any homework. I said, I guess your child is, interested in what they were doing and is continuing to work on it at home. I said, I think that's pretty great. In the back of my head, I don't really care if they fail all their other classes because they're so excited and doing work for my class, but I don't encourage that outwardly. But they're doing great stuff. So I hope it works for me. To give you a little context too about the choice-based learning, I use something called 3D Game Lab. I don't know if anybody's familiar, but it's a wonderful learning management gamified class, learning management system. But one thing that's interesting is a lot of people talk about gamification, and gamification when done right is wonderful. Gamification when done poorly is not so wonderful. So unfortunately, it often gets a bad rap. To me, the key ingredient to successful gamification is choice. So if you want to write that down as one of your takeaways from today, it's the thing is, just giving points and badges and whatever, that doesn't really, that might modify behavior, but when you give kids choice, you give them agency and empowerment. So in this situation, they choose the paths they take. Different quests unlock other quests. At certain points, other quest lines are unlocked. The next thing I'm looking at is, and if anybody plays World of Warcraft, I've always found it interesting that they say the real game starts after you've reached the max level of like 100, right, or something, and I never quite understood that. But now I'm thinking, in this situation, I want the real game for kids to start once they get to the point that they've earned this whatever A+ thing is. My kids get levels, but at the end it equates to a grade because I'm supposed to put a grade on their report card. But they know they're working towards each leveling up, each like 200 points or whatever it is. But I want to get to a point because the kids don't stop. They hit the A+, and they don't. It doesn't mean that they stop working, okay, which is a wonderful thing. So I want to really embrace that game after the game concept. One of the things I've been doing, which I encourage everybody to do because it's so easy these days, is bring experts into the classroom. We've had we've had game designers like on the left come in to our class to speak. She created Carol Pierce Williams is her name. She created a game for her dissertation using Little Big Planet 3, which is a tool my kids are using. So she came in and spoke to the kids about that. John Romero, I hunted him down at GLS and asked if he would come and speak to my class, and he said he would. His wife, Brenda Romero, also. They're two pretty big players in the game design world. John Romero was the founder of id Software and Quake and Doom and all that. So I'm pretty excited for my kids to get to speak with him and his wife and Brenda as well. Another big aspect, I think, to creating this culture is through building community. You know, I have this kick awesome classroom right now, and I allow kids to come in during lunch almost every day for like the first half of lunch, and you know, they swarm in. They're disappointed on a day that I have a meeting or something and can't have them, and they create this. There's this buzz, you know. There's this group. It's an affinity space. It's their second, third home, you know, and they love it. And these are kids that a lot of times, you know, might not be. They're creating a social climate here that they might not otherwise be part of. We also have a tabletop game club, which is another, you know, real opportunity for community building in school. And one other thing that I like to mention is like Mary Ann and Peggy and mothers in here and we've started a few student and teacher like gaming guilds for games like Clash of Clans and some other games. So we're bringing people together that are like-minded and interested and creating these spaces. And it's also, it creates by default sort of a safe space for kids because they're excited to be playing with us. They're also going to watch their behavior a little when they're playing with us, you know, and we have to watch ours as well. In fact, we did have some people leave our clan at one point because they didn't like the fact that they couldn't really curse in the clan chat, so they wanted a more open space for themselves, and that's okay. So a couple of projects I've been involved in. One is called Empowering Learners. It's like a 20% time project. And this was one of the Donors Choose grants I received 2 years ago. And I brought in Disney Infinity, the Xbox One with Project Spark, the Ouya console, because it's a console specific. It's actually run on Android, and it's meant to be for indie developers. So it seemed like a good tool to have. The Makey, which is really popular, and the Raspberry Pi. So these all provide other just resources and opportunities for the kids. I'll show you just a quick little part of this video. Oop, up here. Oop, I went too far. There we go. This is created in Little Big Planet 3.
Based off that mini game that I played, which is like Bridge Survival. So it was bombs on a bridge, and you had to escape them using the grappling hook on the large bridge. And there was also an app on the iPhone called for flight games, so you can go into the building and get to the goal with a certain fixture of the two. So I said it'd be a great thing to play both those things and then give you inspiration to make that list.
Awesome. And as I mentioned, you know, I have a few of my gaming buddies and I are big fans of the grappling hook. I mean, my main exposure to it was a game called Fort online, OORT online, which I certainly recommend. I really wanted to get the promo for Ort Online in there. And then this is kind of neat with the Makey. Okay, this, ladies and gentlemen, might be the first ever Makey paper towel roll flute. And the program in Scratch. And would you take a moment to tell us how you created this masterpiece?
I just took a paper towel roll and stuck taps into it and connected the wires.
There you have it. Man of many words. Oops. I did something wrong there. So, I've done a few other Donors Choose projects.
This one, which got the PlayStation 4. I did one for board games called Analyzing and Deconstructing Non-Digital Games, and got a slew of board games for my classroom. So I strongly recommend looking at sources, crowdfunding sources like Pledge Sense, as well as Donors Choose. And this is a really neat, exciting project right now. So I have a kid, his name's Brian. Now, I was approached by Pact Publishing, to write a book on Game Maker, but specifically the Game Maker language, which is the programming language. Now, my 8th graders, most of them don't use that, and it's not my forte at all. But this kid, Brian, started embracing and getting really into coding with Game Maker language. So I thought about it a little, and I went back to the publisher. I said, how about this? How about if this kid, Brian, and I, co-write the book together? And they were very receptive to the idea, and we're doing it right now. We're on chapter, I think, 6 or 7. He's doing all the heavy lifting, trust me. I feel like I'm the editor, and I figure if I test all of his code, and if I could do what he's saying I should be able to do, then I know it's it's good, ready for the public. So I did again ask some people their thoughts on passion-driven learning, and I'm going to go through. I think we heard a lot about and all have grown to love Paul Darvasi and his work. Is Paul in here? Oh, there he is. Okay. So Paul, the Ward game, Peggy mentioned yesterday that we were all right with him. I mean, he had us at, when he was talking about especially the students that were typically sitting in the back. As he said yesterday, he faked it all, but he's a very good actor. He welled up, and the passion that was demonstrated by that was just beyond amazing. I'm gonna, let's see. Well, there he is again as the big nurse. I think everybody loves that. How could you not? John Fallon, who presented with Paul yesterday, has done amazing work as well with his ARG. I'm not very well read, so I don't know much about the Odyssey. But he was trying to explain to me yesterday. But the neat idea is that the game that he has his kids do takes place completely outside of school and is not even part of the class. And if you saw their presentation yesterday about their new game on video surveillance, it's pretty amazing. Here's a colleague of mine, Jessica Demsack, who teaches art, and she's talking about how the kind of thing when the kids aren't worried about the grades, we're on the right track, when the parents are excited to see what the kids have been talking about, that sort of thing. I'm going through kind of fast because there's one last video I want to get to. Michelle King, I love this quote. "I don't love studying, I hate studying, I like learning. Learning is beautiful." That embodies Michelle King without a doubt. These two folks spoke, and there's a video, but I think I need to go on to this other one. But they were talking about they're both pre-service teachers, and their comment was that there's not much going on in their pre-service classes about giving students choice and voice and allowing their passion to come through. They're trying, they are trying to make that change at that level, and they're students, but they see the value and are concerned. Marianne, No Clue, Malmstrom, I just love this graphic of clearing the space for learning. I hope some of you were able to see her presentation yesterday. And Boundary 10, I'm going to show you this real quick. They're an organization that's out to study and provide opportunities for non-traditional learning.
What if we could could change the way kids learn today.
Expand it. Improve it.
Transform it. What if we could give kids the opportunity to explore?
To seek out who they want to be. To delve into what makes them, them.
We say, let's cut the what ifs.
Let's make the change.
Let's explore the different routes. Let's give these kids a new experience.
We believe that when children and teens are given the tools
and opportunities to pursue topics of interest
in a flexible environment, they create things of value.
So, who are we?
Who are we?
Who are we?
We are Foundry 10. We are Foundry 10.
We are Foundry 10.
I'd love to talk forever about Foundry 10 and their work, but Tom Swanson is here somewhere. Raise your hand. Tom, he's over there. Hunt him down, have lunch with him, find out all the cool stuff they're doing, please. I'm gonna bypass this. I got one thing I gotta get to. There's other stuff here I'll be happy to share out. Do me a favor though, a lot of the tweets that I just totally flew by, they're all you know, things that people responded with that hashtag PassionEDU. So look up that hashtag and you'll see all of this great stuff. But this is really special, and I want to have this come through. Bob Greenberg, he did tremendous work in compiling an anthology of over 200 amazing educators and work. And they're all in these beautiful 3 to 7 videos that encapsulate what these people are doing. So I have a little challenge for you all. I'd say watch one of Bob Greenberg's videos a day, tweet about it, share about it for the next year, and you will have that shot of inspiration every day. Bob was kind enough, I told him about this presentation, and I asked if he could help compile some of the sound bites, you know, some of the people, the real moments of people, teachers, thought leaders, and students, and their thoughts on this idea of passion-driven learning. And he came up with this video for me, which I'm very grateful for. Oop, why is that not? Come on.
I remember years ago at the TED conference telling the story of the little girl who hardly ever paid attention in class. And in this particular class, she did. The teacher was running a drawing lesson. And so the little girl was over in the corner, and she normally didn't pay attention, but she was completely absorbed. And the teacher went over to her and said, "What are you drawing?" And the girl said, "I'm drawing a picture of God." And the teacher said, "But nobody knows what God looks like." And the girl said, "They will in a minute."
Tell them that they can be innovators and that they should follow their passions to make something new is really where we need to be. My biggest fear is that my kids will sit in their schools. I have a first grader who's actually just graduated, so he's a second grader now. A second grader who's going to sit in school, and my biggest fear is that he'll sit up looking at the walls and say, "Oh, only 11 more years."
So I want everyone out there to close your eyes for a second and think about that really important multiple choice test that you took. Your favorite one. Exactly. We don't have fond memories of those multiple choice tests. However, if I were to ask you to close your eyes and think about that really great project that you did in your school, or that favorite teacher that brought that project to you, you can do it instantaneously.
We want people to work on things they're passionate about. We know that people will work longer and harder and persist in the face of obstacles if they work on things they care about deeply. And then play. And when I say play, I don't just mean playing games. I mean a type of attitudes towards your interactions. When someone is playful in their interactions, that they're doing things where they take risks, they test the boundaries, they try new things, they continually experiment. And that's the best way to develop as a creative thinker, by projects, peers, passion, and play.
So like I said, all this really is tied to that messy minds idea. You know, creative people aren't characterized by their consistency. They're characterized by their variability. They're characterized by their ability and willingness to have lots of trial and error, their ability to not be hindered by what is, okay? Because we often reward people in the world who do what people ask them to do, or you know, like, good job, you got an A, you learned that paper. But creative people aren't characterized by that. They're characterized by ability to inhibit the pressure to conform and to go beyond to what could be.
On the intersection of games, which is something that I'm passionate about, I enjoy, it's a lot of fun. And then my cause, which is helping diversify or bring awareness about diverse groups of people in the schools and in education.
And my passion is about student voice, because I believe with every ounce of my being that students have something to teach us. One of the mantras of our institute here is that not only does every student have something to teach us, but that students are the potential, they're not the problem.
But when I went to the middle school, I was shocked at the amount of silence in the room. Of course, the kids were very talkative in the hallway, but it was like as soon as the bell stopped or the music stopped, they just stared at you. And so I started having really rich conversations with my students about, why aren't you asking questions? Why aren't you interested? And they said, Mrs. Klein, you're the only one that really wants us to talk. You're just supposed to give us the information. And, I really thought long and hard about that. And I said, no, you guys are the ones who are supposed to fuel this conversation and, ignite these conversations and discussion. And so we really started to think deeply about our practice together and creating and developing lessons. So really just giving the classroom back to the students. And when I became a mom, I realized that every single student in my classroom truly was someone else's entire world.
And that's absolutely what's been proven to me, because of course the kids who are gamers were like thrilled and they were like gung-ho and really ready to rock. But the kids who were used to playing school and had to figure it out, they knew just how to do it and how to get what they needed, that A on the report card, they were a little unsettled with this whole game. What are we doing? Where's my worksheets? Hold on a second, where's my textbook? So it really was a leap of faith for a lot of them.
It started with Pigston University, where we weren't learning anything, but we had a pet pig and they were learning all these tricks, which were imaginary. We just thought it was fun. And then we decided to make an actual institute for real Minecraft players so they could learn about it. And I was taking a lot of classes and I finally graduated, I think first in magic and first in education, and then educating other students. So I became a teacher at the Minecraft Institute of Technology.
We've even started a weekly web show every Tuesday at 3:30 in the afternoon. We broadcast and we have people tune in to all over the country and even all over the world. We had a person from New Zealand last week, we had some from Australia, California. And it's so cool to see all these teachers coming in and using these tech Sherpas and getting the ideas and spreading the program across the country, just helping kids grow and helping teachers grow.
Recently, I had the honor of helping create course curriculum, a programming class for a middle school down where I go to school in Waco, Waco ISD there. And what was so unique about this class and the way we structured it was that we built it in a way where the students could outpace the class. Well, what do I mean by that? The teachers hadn't taken programming before. They knew about it, they understood it, but it was clear that the students, their generation, understand the technology better and would outpace the class. And what was unique was that the school in that class supported that type of learning outside the bounds of the curriculum, outside the bounds of the class.
And the interesting thing is, poetry wasn't something that I was always into. For as long as I can remember, I was always an avid prose reader. I would read lots of novels, write my own short stories. And it wasn't until a couple weeks before my freshman year that one morning I woke up and spontaneously decided to write a poem. It was completely out of the blue, but from there I began to read more poetry online and I began to take more experience. I began to experiment more with my own writing.
Learned a lot of really important lessons. The first of which is that through the internet, really anything is possible. Views can be shared, and you don't have to be a professor with multiple degrees to have the ideas valued. I was just some random 13-year-old kid who didn't know what a pancreas was. It doesn't matter what your age is, gender is, or where you come from, it's just your ideas that count. And so think, if a 13-year-old who didn't know what a pancreas was could find new ways to attack pancreatic cancer, just imagine what you could do.
And I went home frustrated. I went home and asked the question, why? And could there be a better way of learning? So that's when I created a YouTube video showing how one-to-one mobile learning would transform the way we educate our youth. That video went viral all over the world, and that's when I decided to go to college and form the iSchool initiative. Now, at our core, first and foremost, we are here to empower students to have a voice in education. How often do we stop ourselves and ask our students what they want to see happen in the classroom?
So what do you say? Let's transform education. This is a great quote I love. We want to create a school where students, staff, and parents are beating down the doors to get in, not out. Here's another Ken Robinson quote talking about, what we can do is, education reform is not easy. Transforming education is, I think, within our reach, okay? And let's encourage and nurture students to find and pursue their passion. And if you could provide choice and learning pathways to empower students and encourage students' interest to enter our learning spaces in order to cultivate a love of learning in all of our students. And also, I ask you to learn alongside your students and model your love of learning. And together, let's be the change. Thank you. I apologize for going over, but I appreciate your indulgence.